I see Ferry Morse seeds everywhere around here, especially at hardware stores and garden centers. And for a long time, I never really thought about the brand one way or the other. They were just the packets I grabbed when I needed seeds and didn't feel like placing an online order. I have been growing vegetables, herbs, and flowers for years, both from seed and from starter plants, so I've had plenty of good growing seasons, questionable seed trays, and chances to learn when the packet is the problem and when I am the problem. Last spring, I went into the hardware store for potting mix and plant labels, which should have taken 10 minutes, and came home with Ferry Morse tomatoes, cucumbers, beans, lettuce, herbs, and flowers. That is pretty typical for me because I can make a reasonable garden at home, then get in front of a seed rack and suddenly believe I have space for everything. After growing that many Ferry Morse seeds through a season, I would buy them again. I did not have perfect germination from every packet, but most of what I planted came up, grew into what it was supposed to, and gave me something worth harvesting or looking at. The lettuce, beans, and flowers were pretty easy. The cucumbers had a few gaps at first, but the vines that did grow eventually took over so much room that I stopped being annoyed about the empty spots. Parsley took forever, and my first tomato tray looked bad enough that I briefly blamed the seed before realizing the room was too cold and the lights were too high. I started another tomato batch from the same packet, moved the tray somewhere warmer, lowered the lights, and used a heat mat. That second batch came up much more evenly, which was a good reminder that the seed had not changed. I had just stopped making its job harder. That is why I'm careful about judging germination from one tray. Seed quality matters, but so do temperature, moisture, planting depth, light, and storage. Sometimes a packet really is the problem, but sometimes the gardener has been watering because the top looks dry while the bottom of the tray is basically a swamp. I have been that gardener. I also got a small current comparison this summer when I decided pretty late that I wanted more jalapeños. I found Ferry Morse and Burpee packets locally and direct sold both outside in containers here in Michigan. This was not a scientific test. I did not count every seed or measure every variable, but I used the same soil and the plants got the same weather and watering. I also kept track of which was which because I was curious. The Ferry Morse jalapeños came up without much attention from me and are now noticeably bigger and stronger than the Burpee plants. I'm not going to use one casual pepper planting to declare that Ferry Morse beats Burpee across every crop, but I also can't pretend I don't see the difference when the plants are sitting right beside each other. For this planting, Ferry Morse did better in my yard. I needed more pepper plants and found the packet locally that day, read the back, put the seeds into containers, and they came up without me turning it into a whole production. The local availability is a big part of why I keep buying Ferry Morse. When the weather finally cooperates or I realize I forgot something, I can pick up a packet while I'm already buying soil, trays, or labels. I don't have to wait for shipping or to convince myself I need 12 packets to make an online order worthwhile. The selection is mostly the familiar stuff people already grow, which works for me. I can usually find tomatoes, peppers, beans, cucumbers, lettuce, herbs, marigolds, and other flowers without searching through hundreds of varieties. Sometimes I want hundreds of varieties, but sometimes I just need basil. That is where Ferry Morse is different from Baker Creek for me. Baker Creek is where I go when I want an unusual heirloom and am apparently willing to spend an hour looking at tomatoes. I have absolutely no room to grow. Ferry Morse is what I grab when I want to plant something that afternoon. Burpee is the closest comparison because I can see both brands locally. Most of the time I look at the variety, check the date, and buy the one that makes sense for my garden. The jalapeños were a noticeable difference this year, but I still see that as one result from two specific packets, not proof that every Ferry Morse seed will outperform every Burpee's. Back to the Roots feels more geared towards someone who wants a kit and more of the setup handled for them. Ferry Morse still feels like a traditional seed rack brand, although it sells trays, grow lights, heat mats, kits, and other seed starting supplies. The packets themselves are pretty basic. You get planting depth, spacing, germination, timing, and general harvest or bloom information. That's enough when I already know about the crop, but I do wish they included a little more warning for plants that tend to make people panic. Tell me parsley may sit there looking dead for longer than seems reasonable. Tell me basil hates a cold room. Tell me tomato seedlings can get leggy quick if the lights are too far away. Those are the notes that keep someone from starting over too soon. Botanical Interests does that part better because its packets usually give you more detail. Ferry Morse has online growing guides, FAQs, educational resources, and the Garden Matchmaker quiz, but I would still move some of that information onto the packet itself. Ferry Morse seeds are also 100% non-GMO, non-neonic, and safe for bees, which matters to me because I grow flowers partly for the pollinators. I have Ferry Morse marigolds and celosia growing in a decorative rock garden right now, and they've filled in nicely around the rocks, the lavender, and a few jalapeno plants. The brand also has its Guaranteed to Grow customer support program. I've never used it, but I don't read it as a promise that every seed will sprout, because no company controls your weather, soil, watering, or timing. I just like knowing that there is a support process behind the packet if something seems genuinely wrong. By the end of the season, I had vegetables in the kitchen, herbs I could not cut fast enough, and flowers still adding color around the property. I also had a few empty spots and at least one tray that only improved after I stopped blaming the seed and fixed what I was doing. I'm not buying Ferry Morse just because the name is on the packet, especially when another brand has a variety I want more. But when I'm already at the hardware store, I will still stop at that rack because enough of what I have planted came up, grew well, and became something that we actually use. That is usually enough for another packet to end up in my cart.